What if I told you that the biggest, shiniest truck fleets on South Africa's highways are actually often the ones closest to going completely bankrupt?
I mean, it sounds completely counterintuitive, right?
Totally, because when you picture a highly successful transport and logistics business,
Mhm.
your mind naturally just gravitates toward the visual.
Right. You imagine the sprawling yard, maybe dozens or even hundreds of brand new, gleaming rigs lined up.
Engines rumbling, massive trailers with that pristine corporate branding.
Exactly. It creates this ultimate illusion of an unstoppable commercial machine. And it is incredibly easy for anyone, whether you're a competitor, a supplier, or a client, to just look at that massive physical footprint and assume they've got it all figured out.
But according to the source material we are diving into today, relying on that visual is actually a massive mistake.
It really is.
We're looking at a fascinating piece from Greystride today, and it's titled, What a Structured Transport Business Looks Like. So our mission for this deep dive is to look under the hood of the South African logistics industry. We want to uncover the actual mechanics that separate the businesses that are truly thriving from those that are, well, just barely surviving the daily chaos.
Yeah, we're going to deconstruct the exact metrics for success here.
Yeah.
And I can tell you right now, they have very little to do with how many trucks you have parked in the yard.
Okay, let's unpack this, because to really grasp the mechanics of this, we first need to understand how these massive, chaotic fleets even come into existence.
Right. And the Greystride piece outlines what we could call the classic transport origin story. It's a trajectory you see constantly in the logistics sector here in South Africa.
Okay.
A business rarely just starts out massive. It usually begins with one highly capable individual, one truck, one anchor client, and just this sheer unbending willpower to get the cargo delivered on time.
The ultimate hustle.
The ultimate hustle.
And we see this all the time, don't we? The founder's doing the driving, they're doing the dispatching from a cell phone.
Yeah, invoicing at midnight on a laptop on their kitchen table.
Exactly. And they know every single rattle that truck makes, so they know exactly when, like, a fan belt is about to give out.
And because they're intimately connected to every single moving part, and they're willing to work those 100-hour winds, they actually deliver incredible service.
But that's the trap, isn't it?
It is. The mechanism of their success in that early stage is entirely personal intervention. And because that model works initially, they secure another contract. So they buy a second truck.
And then a fifth.
Right, then a fifth. And suddenly they need to hire drivers because the founder cannot physically be in 5 cabs at once.
Unfortunate reality of physics there.
Exactly. So the freight volume multiplies, the administrative burden just skyrockets, and before they know it, they're operating a fleet of 50 trucks moving significant tonnage across the N3 every single week.
And from the outside, like we said, they were a massive success story.
Oh, a total triumph.
But the source material completely shatters this. It points out that this rapid scaling is actually a lethal trap.
Yeah, because while the fleet has multiplied by 50, the operational system hasn't changed at all.
Wow. Wait, really? Nothing changes.
Nothing changes. They are running a massive logistics network using the exact same methodology they used for one truck.
Which is just the founder's memory and constant urgency.
Yep, and a few incredibly stressed people playing endless games of operational whack-a-mole in the dispatch office.
Here's where it gets really interesting, though. The fundamental problem is that the environment surrounding the business refuses to remain static.
Right. The transition from one truck to 50 changes the stakes entirely,
Yeah.
especially in the South African context.
You're no longer dealing with simple variables. You are facing relentless compounding pressures.
Absolutely. I mean, diesel prices are exceptionally volatile right now.
Constantly fluctuating. And FMCG clients are aggressively squeezing transport rates just to protect their own shrinking margins.
And let's not forget the sheer statistical probability of a catastrophic breakdown. It increases with every single kilometer driven.
Right. It's like building a multi-story skyscraper on the foundation of a backyard garden shed.
That's a great way to put it.
I mean, it might hold up for a bit, but any shift in the wind will bring the whole thing down. Or, to use another analogy, it's like trying to manage OR Tambo International Airport using only a walkie-talkie and a whiteboard.
Which is terrifying to picture.
Right. When you only had one Cessna to land, the whiteboard was fine. But now you have 50 commercial jets circling, and you're still just looking out the window trying to remember who needs a runway.
That is exactly what it feels like for these dispatch teams.
So let's make this concrete for you listening. Picture a scenario. It is 3:00 a.m. A truck blows a turbo near Mui River on the N3.
Okay, classic nightmare scenario.
Right. When you have one truck, that is a bad day. You make a few calls, you handle it. But what happens to the unstructured 50 truck fleet in that exact scenario?
It immediately triggers a cascading operational crisis. Because the business relies entirely on the memory and urgency of the founder, there is no standardized protocol for this.
Just panic.
Pure panic. The driver calls the owner. The owner is waking up trying to remember the name of a mobile mechanic in the Midlands they used, like 3 years ago.
Meanwhile, because there's no integrated telemetry or scheduling system, the loading bay at the Durban port has absolutely no idea the truck isn't coming.
Exactly. The client isn't notified until they start screaming about a missed deadline, so the entire company drops whatever they were supposed to be doing that morning just to put out this one fire.
And while they're putting out the fire in Mui River, they're completely ignoring the other 49 trucks.
Which are now slowly drifting off schedule themselves.
It's a domino effect.
No.
So the hidden differentiator between the companies that survive this industry and the ones that implode isn't the age of the trucks or the size of the fleet.
Not at all. I mean, they are all facing the same diesel costs and the same blown turbos.
The difference, according to Greystride, is a ruthless commitment to structure.
Yes. And the source defines structure not as some empty corporate buzzword, but as a total operational shift.
So what does that actually mean in practice?
Well, a structured transport business actively eliminates reliance on human memory.
Right, getting everything out of the founder's head.
Exactly. It removes urgency as a primary business strategy. It moves away from depending on 2 or 3 heroes in the dispatch office who hold the entire matrix in their heads.
So what does this all mean for the operation on the ground? Let's strip away the high-level theory and talk about the actual mechanics of this. What does accessible information mean on a Tuesday morning at a busy logistics depot?
It means the transport manager isn't spending 2 hours calling drivers to find out their ETAs.
Which is what unstructured places do all day.
Right. Instead, the telemetry system is integrated directly with a client-facing portal. So the client logs in, sees the truck is exactly 40 kilometers away, and they prepare their receiving bay.
No phone calls required.
None. And the driver has a mobile app for proof of delivery. So the moment the cargo is dropped, the invoice is generated and sent to accounts immediately.
It isn't just sitting on a crumpled piece of paper in a cab for 3 days.
Exactly. That is the perfect illustration of moving from reactive to proactive operations. In a structured business, processes are deeply understood by the entire team, not just hoarded by the founder.
Responsibilities are compartmentalized and crystal clear.
Yes, you don't have a culture of guessing or waiting for the boss to hand down orders. And critically, decisions are driven by cold, hard data.
Which brings up a really crucial point about maintenance, going back to our blown turbo scenario at Mui River. The unstructured guy waits for the part to fail and then pays a massive premium for emergency roadside assistance.
Plus, they suffer the reputational damage of a delayed load.
Right. So how does the structured business handle that exact same mechanical reality?
They handle it weeks before the truck even reaches the N3. Because they aren't fighting daily fires, management actually has the bandwidth to utilize predictive maintenance schedules.
So they're analyzing oil samples, tracking exact mileage on specific components.
Yes, and they're swapping out that turbo during a scheduled downtime window in the Johannesburg yard.
They still absorb the cost of the part, obviously.
But they completely eliminate the downtime, the emergency call-out fee, and the furious client. The chaos literally subsides.
I completely understand how that level of operational sanity lowers blood pressure and, gets the dispatch team their weekends back. But I want to push back on this a little because we need to talk about the financial reality of the logistics industry here.
Okay, let's hear it.
Margins are razor thin. Implementing enterprise software, hiring proper operations managers, running predictive maintenance programs, all of this structure requires serious upfront capital.
It does.
So how can a medium-sized operator actually afford all this structure before they secure the massive lucrative contracts that actually pay for it?
It's a very valid challenge, and it touches on one of the most profound insights in the Greystride piece, actually. Operators often view structure purely as an internal expense, like a tidy house that costs money to maintain.
A luxury they can't afford yet.
Exactly. But the mechanism of structure operates far beyond internal efficiency. Structure acts as a highly potent magnet for external trust.
External trust.
Yes, and trust in the supply chain is immediately monetizable.
Monetizable trust. Okay, walk me through the mechanics of that. How does internal software translate to better cash flow?
Let's look at suppliers first. Transport companies rely heavily on credit from parts suppliers, tire manufacturers, and commercial workshops.
Right, keeping the fleet moving on credit.
If a parts supplier looks at an unstructured business, they just see chaos. Invoices are lost, payments are late, communication is erratic.
So the supplier designates that business as high risk.
Exactly. Meaning they demand cash on delivery, or at best, strict 7-day terms. That chokes the transport company's cash flow.
Because all their liquid capital is tied up just keeping the trucks moving today.
Precisely. Now look at the structured business. Their accounts payable process operates like clockwork.
The supplier gets a clean, reconciled statement every month.
And payment lands on the exact agreed-upon date without a single phone call. So the supplier categorizes them as low risk and extends, say, 60-day credit terms.
Wow. So that structured business has just unlocked a massive injection of working capital without taking on a single cent of bank debt.
Purely because their internal systems projected reliability.
Opportunities tend to flow toward businesses that appear capable of handling them. Not because they are perfect, but because they are prepared.
That's spot on. And that same principle applies directly to securing premium clients.
The blue-chip FMCG companies, the major mining houses.
Right. They are not simply looking for the cheapest rate per ton. They are calculating their total cost of risk.
Because if a cheap transporter drops a load, the client's production line stops.
And the financial penalty of that stoppage vastly outweighs the few hundred rand they saved on the transport rate. They will happily pay a premium to the structured business because predictability is the ultimate currency.
They want a logistics partner that does not make them anxious.
That is the hidden advantage. Opportunities actively flow toward businesses that possess the structural bandwidth to handle them.
So the structured business wins the tender, not because they are immune to flat tires or traffic jams.
No, but because the client knows that if something does go wrong, there is a robust system in place to communicate and resolve it instantly.
So think about your own supply chain or business relationships listening to this. Predictability and professionalism really are the ultimate currencies when looking for partners in the transport network.
Absolutely.
And this entirely dismantles the most pervasive myth in the transport sector. The hustle mentality dictates a very specific formula. I will secure more loads, I will buy more trucks, I will force the revenue growth, and eventually, once I'm big enough, things will settle down, and I will buy the good software and hire the ops manager.
The Greystride piece labels that belief as a fatal flaw in logic.
A fatal flaw. Why?
Because the idea that growth creates stability is completely backwards. Adding volume to a broken system does not stabilize the system.
Right.
It merely amplifies the fractures until the whole thing shatters.
Right. If your cost per kilometer is essentially a guess, adding 20 more trucks just multiplies your potential losses at a terrifying speed.
Exactly the point. The reality, as explicitly stated in the source, is the exact inverse. Stability creates growth.
Wait, so are you saying that a logistics company stuck in firefighting mode is actually locking itself out of the best opportunities, even if the owner is working 100-hour weeks?
Yes, because they lack visibility. An unstructured business operates in a fog. They do not know their exact cost per kilometer down to the cent.
They don't know which specific routes are subsidizing the others.
Right. Because of this, they take loads simply for the sake of keeping the wheels turning. Often they're moving freight at a net loss without realizing it until the end of the quarter.
Ouch. Well, the structured business is doing route profitability analysis on a daily basis.
Yes. The structured business has absolute clarity. If a route is a loss leader, they drop it. They identify risks early, and crucially, they possess the operational capacity to absorb a massive new contract.
Because their foundation is solid.
Exactly. If a major retailer suddenly offers them 50 loads a week, the structured business plugs that volume into their existing dispatch matrix, scales up their predictive maintenance, and executes.
But if you hand that exact same contract to the firefighting business,
The owner's brain simply cannot process 50 new variables a day. Deliveries are missed, invoicing collapses, and the contract is lost within a month.
so the growing gap we see between competitors on the highway, where one company explodes into a Tier 1 operator, while the other stays stuck at 15 trucks for a decade, that gap has absolutely nothing to do with who works harder.
It is entirely disconnected from effort.
Wow.
The guy working 100 hours a week isn't losing to someone working 120 hours. He's losing to a system. He's losing because the other business is operating from a vastly superior foundation.
That is a harsh reality check for an industry that heavily romanticizes the grind. I mean, we celebrate the boss who sleeps in their backie and answers the phone at 3 a.m. to go deliver a spare tire.
We view that as ultimate dedication.
But applying that logic to a massive fleet is fundamentally irresponsible.
It really is.
It redefines exactly how you, the listener, should be evaluating a transport operation from this point forward.
It forces a complete shift in perspective. You have to look far beyond the visible metrics. The Greystride material finishes by driving this exact point home. When people assess a transport company, they count what they can see from the highway.
Fleet size, trailer count, yard space.
The chrome and the paint jobs, yeah. But the most resilient, dominant businesses in the South African logistics network are defined by the invisible.
The systems you can't see.
Exactly.
Yeah.
They are defined by the API integrations running quietly in the background, the preventative maintenance schedules, the flawless accounts receivable processes.
And that deeply ingrained culture of data-driven decision-making.
That is the invisible foundation. It's the bedrock of absolute consistency that allows them to scale without cracking under the immense pressure of the market.
And as the text concludes, that invisible foundation is often the sole reason some businesses continue to aggressively capture market share.
While others remain entirely stagnant, slowly suffocating under the weight of their own chaotic operations, despite the owner working themselves into an early grave.
So whether you are a supply chain manager evaluating a new logistics partner, whether you're running your own transport operation and feeling that daily burn, or whether you are simply observing the industry, remember to look past the shiny trucks.
Definitely.
The next time you see a massive fleet roaring down the highway, don't just ask yourself how many rigs they have. Ask yourself if the invisible foundation is actually there to support them.
Because without that structure, they are just a single bad diesel hike or one lost contract away from total collapse.
And that leaves us with a highly provocative thought to mull over. If everything we've unpacked today holds true, if foundational stability is the true engine of sustainable growth, and chaotic, unstructured volume is actually a massive liability, could a struggling transport company actually become significantly stronger, infinitely more profitable, and better positioned for the future by purposely selling off a portion of their fleet, shrinking their physical footprint, and using that capital to build structural stability first?
It completely challenges the very core of transport ego, doesn't it? Is it fundamentally better to run 20 chaotic trucks barely breaking even, or 10 perfectly structured ones generating predictable, scalable profit?
Something to seriously consider the next time you see a logistics company boasting about their rapid fleet expansion. Maybe the real giants of the industry are the quiet, systemized operations you never even notice. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive.